Good evening or good day, Brad.
Hello.
Hello. So
Oh,
here
hey,
we
man.
are.
Is it
Um,
is it actually on?
yeah, we're live with.
Oh, okay. It's not on the on my browser, but that's okay.
Normally, I think we are live.
Oh, there we are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
A little bit of a delay. There's me looking silly and
So let's be silly and start by me calling you welcome, Sir Brad LANER.
yes, I've been knighted by the queen.
Well, it's yeah. Yeah, so here we are with Brad LANER, who I consider the front man of medicine. I don't know if it's fair to say that, but I hope
Yeah.
no one takes umbrage of that.
Yeah, it's my baby, you know.
Medicine, a band that came onto the radars in '92, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
On for us in Europe on Creation, but in the US on a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Warner Reprise.
Yeah,
It was Deaf American at the time.
yeah. And we'll talk about that a little bit because
Sure.
it's quite a fun story.
Yeah.
And we're here today because you had the incredible idea to issue on vinyl this album, Her Highness,
Mm-hmm.
Premier Mélange, first mix, first blend.
Did I do that all right?
Mélange in French is blend rather than
Right.
mix.
Well, same.
Same, yeah.
That's what the
It gives more cachet, I think. It gives a European air.
right. I mean, I'm of the opinion that anything in French sounds better, you know.
And blend is also,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which
All right.
I
When
think
you
that
mix
that record is
half
pretty
with tobacco.
psychedelic,
I'm sorry.
isn't it? Which I think that this album is pretty psychedelic.
Absolutely. I much prefer that as a genre marker for medicine than anything else. Psychedelic. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
This was the third album, but can you tell us why this was for the first time issued on vinyl? Because it was issued on CD in '95, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And cassette.
And cassettes, yeah. And it was released as Her Highness. What is the
Yeah.
the Premier Mélange? And
The
why
Premier
do we have
Melange.
it
The
in
Premier
our
Melange
hands?
is the very first mix that I and Eddie Offord made that was rejected by the label. And it's probably my only professional regret that I did not fight them. I was so burnt out from touring and fighting with my bandmates by that time that I was like, fine, just, hand it to that hack that remixed it. I'll name him. His name is Bruce Lamkov, and he mixed like the totally inappropriate for us. And he just, my primary problem with the original Her Highness was that the vocals are just too damn loud, like he did an okay job with the music and everything, but the vocals are just way too loud, so I intended to start this vinyl reissue label of medicine stuff and other things. And, I just listened to that CD again and went, I couldn't make it through the first track. So then I remembered that I had those original mixes and went back and listened and went, this actually sounds really good. It was kind of a revelation that, my old self did okay, with it. And I should have just, I don't know. It's just like righting a wrong. If I had the opportunity to correct the record in a way.
And you were responsible for the original mix on this one.
That record is my original rejected by the label mix.
That you have tweaked a little bit, maybe, since
correct. I did some mastering, yes, as one does. Sprinkled some fairy dust upon it.
And what did your former bandmates think of that? I know that Jim is still around with you.
Jim, the drummer, did that cover. He did that collage. He's, we're both very emotional about it. I mean, because there was a joke. Medicine is basically just him and I now. So, I mean, we had a joke for ages that rather than putting out an expanded reissue of Her Highness, we should put out a reduced version of Her Highness. And not only like, but no full songs, just the moments of the songs that we liked, like edited together. But that was before I went back and kind of remembered that I had these original mixes, you know? And that's how much we hate the official version. I mean, and it really is that. It's just the vocals are too loud.
And what does Elizabeth Beth think of
I
studying her voice?
I honestly don't know. I'm
Okay.
not in touch with her. Yeah.
Story of rock and roll.
I think, you know, she's going to get a bunch of copies to sell. I mean,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, because
she did a great. She sounds great on the record. You know.
I guess that so when the Medicine started out, you already had a long career before that. You've done a lot of records before that, participated in lots of projects. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But when Medicine first appeared with this EP, yeah, with an amazing cover by, I believe, your mother.
No, that's that is a picture.
No. That is your mother who did that one.
No, that's a photo. Also, my mother did the cover of The Buried Life, the Cherries, and she also did the cover of To the Happy Few.
All right,
which is like the oranges and the breast-looking lemon thing. The Eruca cover, that's a detail of a sculpture by a friend of ours from Cal Arts.
All right.
I'm sure their name is on there someplace. And the back is another. It's the same
cover sculptures and photos by Trevor Johnson.
Trevor Johnson. He's the one who made that. It's this massive globe-like sculpture of just stuff interwoven. Yeah, I think that's probably better than than the album cover, right? I mean, that's
I mean, there's one thing that, like, it's not the most important thing in the world, but you've always had pretty interesting covers on these creation records, and also pretty good titles. I think the name of the songs, the name of the albums, it's usually pretty good.
Thank you. We try.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we like records, you know, so try to make them as aesthetically pleasing as possible, you know. And, you know, it's an amazing opportunity to get to have.
But I remember when I first heard this, and the music was so striking. This also psychedelic music that back then we processed as shoegaze for many reasons, even if it had like a much more industrial edge in a way, like the way you introduced the introduction on the guitar that you play almost like a machine. Right. That was like next level shoegaze in a way. You would hear that very seldom. Of course, you had Curve, but Curve was doing that with the drum machines. You did that with the guitars, a bit like Roller Skate Skinny did on their first album as well. Which
they were great. I got to see them once, open for Pavement. I mean, I think that what appealed to us about shoegaze, dream pop, whatever it was, that it allowed for sonic experimentation, which was, you know, and mixed with cool pop songwriting. So, I mean, that opening to Eruca it just happened naturally. It's just, you know.
Imagine when you're a kid back then, you hear the music, and then you see covers like that. Like I mean, you were very lucky between the combination of your artwork covers and the music back then. It was a very strong impact it had, even if it was still an independent label, independent music. That's really struck out on the shelves.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that's, you know, we were trying. I mean, trying to establish ourselves, and also sort of committing commercial suicide, of course, you know, starting records like that, you know. Like,
well, you had the first two albums, that came out pretty seamlessly, apparently for us, at least the audience back then. Back then, the band started with you, Jim Goodnow, the drummer, Beth, the singer, and Ed Rusha on Eddie Rusha the fifth.
Yeah.
On
bass.
Who was on bass, and yeah.
And Jim Putnam on guitar.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He went on to do the Radar Brothers.
Oh yeah.
And now he's the Flaming Lips live sound person, I believe.
Great minds then, but
right, and we toured. I mean, that version of the band toured with the Flaming Lips in the States as well. So
in the early 90s.
Yeah. Around their album "Hit to Death" and "The Future Head." That was their current album when we were touring with them.
So still early Flaming.
But when Ronald Jones was on guitar, who was amazing.
So how did that little group of the five of you get together?
They were all friends of mine from different areas.
By the way, for those who don't know, you are from Los Angeles.
Correct.
Yeah.
And still here in the San Fernando Valley. But I had made demo versions. A lot of those are on Bandcamp now of all the songs by myself, and then with Annette Zelinskas, who was formerly in the Bangles. And she connected me with who became our manager, Jeff Jacklin, who was really well connected with all these labels and everything. And he said, if you put a band together around these home recordings you've made, I can get you a record deal. So that's how those people were gathered. I'd known Jim since the early 80s when he was in Dead of Nature with me, and we had another band called Severed Head in the Bag. And I knew Eddie, we called him Ed back then. I don't know why he's Eddie now, but I met him when I was working in a video rental store, and he was like 13, like his voice hadn't even changed yet. And he came in and he was wearing a Psychic TV shirt. And I was like, hey, that's cool. And he was like, you know them? And he became convinced that I like somehow knew them because I recognized the shirt. So I've known, I knew them since they were little kids. And then Beth, I knew because I played in Four-Way Cross with her. And they had a recording studio where Steam and Coils made all of our records. So it's, the way bands come. Yes. Steam and Coils, Breaded. The third Steam and Coils album.
Yeah. Like, which was more like, I would say, compared to what you were doing with Medicine.
Yes.
Way more like kind of rock in opposition.
Well, exactly. Thank you. That's precisely what we were trying to do. I was a massive Rock and Opposition fan in the 80s. That was my favorite, like Nurse with Wound and Recommended Records. That was what it was all about for me in the 80s. So yeah, there you go. And that's like one of the highlights of my life, that I got to be on a Recommended Records compilation. Yeah.
With Grigsby?
With James Grigsby from Motor Thomas Guild. Yeah. And James played in Steaming Coils too. And the CD version of that has an amazing Robert Wyatt song on it. So the fact that I got to be on the CD with Robert Wyatt kind of made my life. The whole
series is just amazing.
Amazing.
The cover art, the textures of all that.
They're all like hand screen printed.
Yeah. And I'm going to mention that because
color is God,
if people don't know that already by now, you are also a record nerd.
Yes, you can see. There's some.
Wow.
There's some, and yeah. Bit of a nerd.
Yeah. Well, I was just called by my 7-year-old nephew. You're kind of like a record nerd, aren't you, Uncle?
Well, from mouths of babes.
So you were doing. So you were into maybe bands like Thinking Plague, 5 UUs, all the cuneiform stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm friends with 5UUs because they were from out here too. So I knew David Kerman, ages ago before he moved to Europe. But yeah, all that stuff. I mean,
For those who don't know, the rock opposition scene from the US is kind of, you would say, the Canterbury rock of the US, which is probably a little more violent sometimes.
yes,
Let's.
it's very, very. It's not centralized. It's just like
Mm.
random weirdos here and there. Like the Muffins and the Residents were kind of the kingpin of that.
Yeah.
And
But from that to this, there's quite a gap.
Well, what from basically late
from
80s
steaming coils to medicine. It's like there's a few steps maybe you would think there might be in between that weren't obvious then, but maybe it's because they happened even before.
Yeah, well, I think between steaming coils and medicine, I became more determined to get signed to a major label because that was what we had to do to get established back then. And I had a girlfriend who was kind of at the time an aspiring rock type singer, and that's how medicine accidentally became invented. Like we were making demos and trying to make commercial rock music, and it's not good. But one day I just got this insane guitar sound and handed her the mic and said, just do anything. And that became the first medicine song. It's a song called Gum, Gum, like mama. And that's on, I think it's the first track on the Falls compilation. No, I'm sorry. On the selected early recordings compilation on Bandcamp. That's kind of the birth of medicine right there. It was just a sound that I stumbled on in the process of writing these awful rock songs.
So medicine was born out of experimenting and just finding like a light bulb moment.
Yes, you can hear that light bulb moment on Gum. It was on the Shot Forth double CD reissue as well.
And even if Shot was and Aruka were released like a year after Loveless, I guess that a lot of that was done and started to boil before Loveless was released.
Absolutely.
Which means synchronicity, zeitgeist.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's sacrilege to say, but I found Loveless disappointing when it came out. I thought it sounded too 4AD. Like I liked the grinding, noisy My Bloody Valentine better than the dreamy 4AD.
Yeah, that album is kind of half. There's all these songs that are songs and all these songs that are tracks, which are like really more exciting.
I mean, to me, there's so much better music in the world than that band. And we're, of course, I'm dogged by the comparisons, and I saw them live, tons of Jim Goodall and I saw them in '88, and there was like 20 people in the audience, and that was the best time I saw the Valentines. But because they were playing, there was no tapes, and they were arguing on stage, and it was cute. But
I mean, you understand why I had. Well, I thought it's fair to address that since you were on the same label. You came out at the time like it's funny how people talk about shoegaze as a thing, as an obvious thing now, since it was only just a few years and it wasn't that
nobody called it that back then either. But
in Europe a little bit, maybe not in the US, but in Europe, no, we used to call it noisy pop actually.
Right.
I remember with the Face Healers, the Early Breeders, and all that stuff. Yeah. But so, how, like the label? How did you end up on Creation? I know the story. I'm not like a huge, fetishist of Creation at all.
Right. Nor am I.
But we understand why they have their place in history.
Sure, they released some wonderful records. I mean, I think my favorite is the first Moonshake EP. You're gonna pull it out. Yeah, I mean, there you go. Coward. I mean, I'm not calling you a coward. That's the song Coward.
Yeah.
It's like Fairport Convention shoegaze. I mean, they were actually doing something different, you know. They were great. And you know, some of that Telescope stuff is really good. When we signed with them, we got to go to their offices. There's pictures of Beth and I, you know, the artist who did the Primal Scream Screamadelica album cover, the painting, the really crude painting. His studio was in the attic of Creation Records. So there's a picture of Beth and I in his studio. It's everywhere. But yeah, we got to go in their record closet and clean them out. That was the best part of being on Creation, was like walking out of there with like an armful of records, you know. But we were actually signed to Deaf American first. Most people don't assume that. They assume the opposite.
Because of the sound, of course.
Yeah, they signed us, and then they played it for Alan McGee, who said, yeah, I'll put out something by them. So it was the cart before the horse kind of situation.
And what did Deaf American, what did they do with you in the US then?
They just put us in a van and sent us on the road, which was miserable at the time, but now I'm really glad we did it, because we met tons of people and kind of established an audience for ourselves in a way that we couldn't have otherwise. But that was it. It was just endless touring.
Because I just imagine, I may be completely off, but that back then, as most of these bands with this kind of sound, even if everyone was different, most of them were in Europe. You had a unique opportunity to be the one band that was signed on one of these European labels, even if you were actually on an American label, to be like promoting, playing, this sound in the US.
We had a lot of resentment in England, actually. It was like, who are these people? What do they think they're doing? You know? We had the full English, build them up and knock them down in the press. You know, like, we were very welcomed at first, and that Aruka came out and went to #2 in the indie charts, I believe, in the NME. And then we went over there to play, and they just stuck a fork in us, man. It was like brutal. We went over there. Yeah. It was, I thought we were good, but they were just waiting with knives out for us, you know? So we had,
I can imagine the guys from Jesus and Mary Chain, like, being totally like, who are these fucking guys?
Right. Well, no, it's funny. We were on there. They were on Deaf American in America, and we played shows with them, and they were so unfriendly, we didn't even meet them. They just, like, hidden in their dressing rooms. A lot of the bands from that era were really nice, though. I mean, we played with Curve, and they were total sweethearts, and Swerve Drive. We toured America with Swerve Driver for 2 months. I mean,
well, they were the more American rock and roll band of the whole lot, I would say, though.
Definitely not really my cup of tea, but super lovely fellows, you know. Yeah. And a good match for us to tour with. That was our best touring era.
But back then, it was also it was still the time of the college radios and all that. So how did it go for you in the US back then?
It was a struggle. I mean, you know, because they didn't promote us heavily. We did well on college radio, but it was not, I mean, and we did get played on MTV, like on their 120-minute show. And I used to hear like One More from Shot Forth Self Living, like in the background. They would play like cooler music underneath the VJs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess compared to some bands, we did really well. I don't know. I mean,
maybe it's also because in the US there was not really that many other bands doing something similar to as you were. So
almost not. I mean, you know, Swirlies and Drop 19s are the only, you know, and Lilies, you know.
And Acetone, maybe.
Well, Acetone were our friends and were managed by the same people that managed us, and they, I mean, Yeah, I mean, Acetone got signed as a direct result of Medicine doing what we did.
And then there was also the band who didn't know if they wanted to be shoegaze or grunge, which is the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, right. Well, and they were supportive of us too. That our first European tour was with Smashing Pumpkins. Nowadays I wish I'd never had anything to do with them, but I mean, they were a lot of fun back then. But yeah.
I remember like back in between 92 and 93, 94, I saw them 4 times live.
Yeah.
And every time the opening band was Why We Were There.
Right. I mean, we played with them in Paris. Espacio something.
Yeah, but I missed that one, unfortunately. But yeah, we talked about it. Yeah.
I mean, and they were good to us. They, but I just, God, what they've become. Jesus Christ.
So you do these 2 albums on Def America and Creation. The second one, this is the EP of the second one.
Never clicked.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Cheers.
By then, Ed Ruscha has left the band.
Yeah, Ed and Jim Putnam left before we made The Buried Life. Yes, they were never meant to be in somebody else's band. Either of those guys, they're both band leaders in their own right. So they couldn't wait to get out.
Yeah, so it was.
They were like, I think they thought they were joining like an art project. And after we'd been on the road for like 4 months, they were just done. So, I don't blame them at all.
So would then maybe
that photo is taken by Frederick Nilsson.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an amazing yeah. It's I love this cover so much. The records from that time usually like this culture also of the EPs, single EPs, that like why you're getting this,
right?
And
really fun EPs,
So this was already not on Creation. This was on Beggar's Banquet, right?
Correct.
So, but you basically, so you were still on Def Jam. It was just that in Europe you were on Beggars,
right? Because we were never really on Creation. We were just licensed to them. So, and by the time of The Buried Life, Creation was Oasis City.
Yeah,
not even trying to be hip and cool anymore. So, so we ended up on Beggar's Banquet after that.
Yeah, 93 is kind of the year of the big shift where all the people like you normally you go to electronic music, and the people who want to go back to the Beatles, they do the Britpop thing.
Right. I mean, I love those Beatles, but you can see John Lennon right over my head there. John Lennon on heroin right there.
And wait, is it? I'm not sure if it's which one is it. If it's the big guy in the picture, or if it's him in the. Okay, so you're not the John Lennon.
Let it be lobby card.
You're not like the secretly still alive John Lennon.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yes. I used to be. I mean, when I was younger, people said John Lennon everywhere I went in the world, and you're the first person to say that to me in many years. So God bless you, sir.
Well, so between the first album and the second one, like it is quite consistent. It is the same, even if the band has changed a little bit as you were.
I mean, I prefer The Buried Life because I think we became bolder and more experimental. Yeah. We also had Van Dyke Parks do a string arrangement, which was like a dream come true for me. We paid through the nose for it, which my bandmates were not happy about. But
wasn't there like also like you told me the story of someone from Canada who did the mixing? The guy from Rush or Yes, I don't remember.
No, it's I say that I adore Yes, and I fucking hate Rush. So let's, yes. Okay. I'm such a big Yes fan that we hired Eddie Offord, who's the Yes's producer, to co-produce Her Highness with me. So those original mixes are me and him. He did all right. I mean, he was kind
That's
of a
when I
mess,
was asking you who, if you did the mixing on it. I remember the story, but I was mixed
right.
between which one he did.
And Eddie has experimental music cred. He recorded like an early spontaneous music ensemble record.
Oh, nice.
And it's good, man. I mean, all those records are good, but yeah, no, Eddie Offord has, he did
But
good
so
work.
we'll get to that then. But for A Buried Life, the music was consistent, and of course, like, you were improving and growing with it. And yeah, I liked it. The people who liked the first album, I assume, liked the second album as well.
Yeah,
And
I mean, we were always received with a lot of snark, and distrust.
but I mean, I'm not talking about the scenes and the insiders and the
Yeah.
business. I'm talking about just kids who are into that kind of music. If you liked the first album, there was no reason to like. The second one was really
Yeah,
delivering.
it was part two,
And then arrived indeed Her Highness, which I bought the CD.
Right. Sorry
about
that.
And was, I must confess, instantly disappointed with it.
Yeah, me too.
Compared to the first two ones, apart from one song that kept the album in my mind all these years, which is why we're talking today, which is Heads. That was that one. Still, you could hear, okay, this is the next chapter of The Buried Life is in that song.
Thank you. Yeah, that was probably the intention, was to start doing stuff that was less chord progression based, things that just kind of moved along a vertical line. Yeah, no, I mean,
by the way, this is the song that on Friday, for those who follow my streams on my Friday streams, this is the song I opened the stream with. So if you want to go check this one, or go listen to it on Bandcamp and buy the album. But
right,
the link is in the description, by the way. But yeah, so the album came out on CD. You had all these. Okay, so tell us what was the goal with Her Highness, and then what happened and why.
we were basically being told, if you don't make a record that we can get on the radio, you're going to get dropped. So I ignored that and made the record I wanted to make, which was more song oriented. But like I said before, they rejected the mix and tried to make it commercial, and of course that didn't work. And that's that. I mean, and then we broke up.
But like when you did it, that like the band, like you, Jim, and Beth, like it was still the band, and you were on the same page.
No, we really weren't, though. Yeah, I mean, the band was, you stick some people in a small van for months at a time, they're going to start, cannibalizing each other. Yeah, no, we just, it just imploded for all the stupid, typical rock band reasons, Mostly just sick of it,
So you knew, like, when the album was finished, you already kind of knew it was over?
Yes, definitely. And the last tour we did was long after it was finished, and it was just a disaster to me, And that's what really put an end to it.
Was it a European tour?
No, it was an American tour. We didn't go to Europe for Her Highness at all.
That kind of reminds me a little bit of the story of a band I'm sure you at least are familiar with, which is the Jean-Paul Sartre Experience from New Zealand.
I like that first album, and I heard that in like '89. It was lovely, really lovely. Yeah. Oh wow, I haven't thought about them in a long time.
Yeah, they were kind of also destroyed by touring and
weren't
the expectations.
Were they from New Zealand or?
Yeah, from New Zealand. Yeah.
Okay.
They were from London, but They were like, they had like in '92 they had an EP called the Brief EP that was really really good noisy pop, and then they released an album exactly like you. The mixes were completely different and really boring. Like all the magic was gone, and then of course they split.
That's too bad. Now you're making me want to go find that album again. I probably still have it, but
there's I think there's a box set or kind of a triple LP of the early stuff, all the stuff that was on vinyl, but unfortunately missing some of the best songs. But
wow,
it's what it is.
Yeah, I only knew the one album.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it. Maybe it didn't have a name.
But were you like when so the album was released on CD? It was barely distributed in Europe because I think it only came out on Deaf America.
No, I believe that it came out via Beggar's Banquet
as well. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, there's a weird promo 7-inch of Candy Candy and Wash Me Out that only came out in the UK that I didn't even know about. I bought it on eBay. I was like, what the hell is this? That's pretty scarce. And that for the longest time, that was the only vinyl related to Her Highness, was this UK promo single. Yeah.
but the thing is that, like, okay, so the band was over, you had that. You were quite soon after that, you reappeared, at least to me, without knowing. I didn't make the connection back then. It was you, because back then also, by '94, I guess me and a lot of people like me, we were full on with the Warp stuff.
Right.
And for me, the best band to transition all that was Seafeel. Right. And there was very little rock and roll that was still interesting to me, and the bands were obviously the same as everyone, I guess, were Tortoise, Labradford, and a few bands like that. The post-rock newer band, yeah, exactly, what they labeled as post-rock in the US, and there was a noise label from Texas that put out a series of these bands or new projects from these bands, and you were part of that, which is the Kanahek Incident series. Right. I have the one number 3, I believe, which features Brad LANER under the name Electric Company, which I had no idea was you back then. This one is amazing. Features Windsurfer the Derby and Drain, which I believe is connected to the Butthole Surfers. Right.
It's King Coffee's solo stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Which is very dubby.
And that's his label.
Oh, he owns the label. Okay.
Yeah, Trend Syndicate was King Coffee's label.
Yeah, I love all these old Love and Napalm compilations. Which you were quite close to that kind of music at one point, and we'll get to that. But so at that point, Labradford was there, and a few other bands, and you had this EP, Electric Company, and and then while this was booming in the UK, the scene, the IDM scene, not EDM scene, intelligent dance music.
Very intelligent.
Yeah.
So smart.
Was like coming out and coming around in a much more like underground and unremarkable way, in a way, I would say. In the US, you had people doing stuff like in San Francisco with the guys from Plug Research, guys in Miami with Schematic.
I think Plug Research, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Right.
And and that was happening at the same time as techno, like basement, like hard techno was happening in the Midwest and really blooming in Europe. But that was completely different what you were doing. It had nothing to do with dance floor.
No, not at all. I have no interest in making people shake their booties. So I like funky music, and I've made funky music, but yeah, no, I was into trying to make electronic music sound like Captain Beefheart, you know? And I think a lot of that so-called IDM stuff, we were talking about that last time, is that I think the IDM that stuff from that era really holds up. I mean, I think that's like really creative, and there's some fantastic. I've been trying to collect as much of it on vinyl as possible, because it just sounds fantastic. At the time, you know, everybody was just downloading everything on hotline servers and stuff, right? I mean, so
or spending all their money on Boomcat in the UK.
Right. Well, I was downloading stuff, so I've been like buying stuff that I downloaded illicitly.
You did good, because now most of it is worth nothing.
Right, I know. No, I mean, you talk about finding cheap, great music. Yes, there's a universe of fantastic IDM vinyl out there that is absolutely cheap and worth getting.
Both you and I, when you understand music, you understand that even if it's worthless right now, well, these records are from the 90s and early 2000s, so they never press more than 500 copies,
right?
Very rarely. And the good ones, they are the future, you know, psych, prog grails of the 70s. But
I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that, and that music is as good as the top dollar music concrete and experimental music from the 60s and 70s. I think that IDM stuff totally carries on from that and is just as experimental and rigorous and accomplished. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it is going to be
there's actually one American guy who was totally part of all that, and who completely probably is one of the greatest ambassador of like bridging this new IDM with the old academical musique concrète experimental music. I'm sure you can guess who I'm talking about.
Don't say Richard Devine.
No. It's someone.
Someone. You mean Aphex, man?
No, I mean Keith.
Oh, Keith Whitman. Yes, Keith is delightful. We love Keith.
Keith Furlton Whitman, who used back then to release IDM music under the name Hrvatsky, who had a label. Who, let's see if I still remember the name. Rekonkreuzungswerkskomplex.
Right. Easy for
I haven't rehearsed that. It's just I was a big nerd of that back then.
Yeah, no. Keith is amazing, and he his famous track back then was his tribute to Kid 606.
Yeah.
Sung by the he programmed it the computer voice. It's the Kid 606 and Friends Volume 2 CD, the Electric Company, and that's the CD that Eno sampled me off of.
Out of all the things you've done.
Yes, that's the one. And that's because Brian Eno was fascinated with Kid 606 and was trying super hard to get Miguel to do something with him. And Miguel was not impressed.
Miguel, P606, who was back then the wonder kid of American IDM.
And he, was very kind and put out a lot of my music. But yes, so he handed Brian Eno all this music and just like, go away. So yeah, next thing I know, I get an email from Brian Eno saying, "Is this you? Can I use this? Is this all right?" I was like, "Yes, I love you."
Oh my god, that was that must have been
fun time. It's on his album Another Day on Earth, which I'm waiting for him to put on vinyl. I don't know why he hasn't.
So a friend of yours is watching us right now, Danny.
Danny's a good man.
Is he a musician as well?
He is the he has a band, the Grumfins. I know that. Yeah, Danny is basically the current business brains behind the LAFMS.
Oh, okay.
And he's the one who organizes all of their amazing reissue projects and concerts and things. And
you are obviously connected to the LFAMS in many ways. Tom Rechon has done lots of design for you. Tom might be watching right now. Who knows?
Yes, Tom is one of my favorite human beings to ever exist on the planet, and we were extremely fortunate that he was the in-house art director at Warner Brothers when Medicine signed. So we got to work with him, which was, I had known him for years just by being a little LAFMS fanboy. Tom plays on that Steaming Coils record that you had, that I sent you.
Yeah.
He also is on that Dead of Nature record that I sent you. Yeah, I mean, it was just the cherry on top of the whole experience to get to go work with Tom on the artwork for Medicine Records. That was a, beautiful coincidence.
And I mean, it goes so way back as well, because you say you were a fanboy of LFAMS, which is in itself or almost like absurd to say. But if you
No, it really isn't, because to grow up here, okay, so I like start discovering punk rock when I'm like 13. Oh yeah. I'm on the one after that, the second volume.
I'm showing that because this is not LFAMS, but it is kind of like a continuation and a part of it. As you have lots of people here.
Oh
like
yeah.
You were in Savage Republic at one point. You were in 17 Pygmies at one point.
Yeah. I played drums with both of them. I toured Europe with Savage Republic in 1988 as their drummer when I was 21.
Wow.
And it disabused me of the notion of being a drummer for the rest of my
life. What are you talking about? The girls or what?
What's that? There were no girls. No girls with Savage Republic. Some girls like Medicine, but very few like Savage Republic. Oh God.
Yeah, so you were part around all that. I mean, I'm sure that this guy is also one of your friends then, or at least your.
Carl Stone? Oh yeah. Carl's all right. He's good people. I think Carl. I always think of Carl Stone as a grown up, and I feel like I'm like a snot-nosed kid compared to Carl.
And all that is quite interesting to me, because in a way, Medicine and the kind of zeitgeist around that kind of music back then is kind of in between, like two waves of the most avant-garde music, and this is what got a whole generation like me into that. Got our foot into that, but you saw it before that and after that.
Definitely. I mean, what I was going to say though about LAFMS was, I discovered them because punk rock compilations were how you discovered bands back then. Yeah. And I bought Darker Scratcher because it had 45 Grave on it, and the Bee People, and it had all and Monitor and Human Hands. So I thought I was, that was a life ruining moment, getting that, and then getting to hear the Duets and Le Forte 4 and Boyd Price,
Yeah, because you told me that when you were in the UK touring with all these bands, like that's, for example, when you met Steven Stapleton, because you were really looking for that kind of music. That was what was fueling you.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I met Steven Stapleton by chance at the Recommended store on Wadsworth.
But he didn't dissect you.
He didn't what? He did not dissect me, no. I dissected him, though. No, he was great. We went and had a drink together and talked for hours, and what a lovely fellow. And that made my whole trip. That was the end of my tour with Savage Republic, was spending a day with Stapleton randomly and visiting Abbey Road after hours and playing the piano.
We have two very train-spotty questions here. Like Jose wants you to talk about your experience with Rick Rubin.
Oh, yeah, Rick Rubin. We used to, well, I shouldn't talk now being a bearded person, but we used to take note of all the food in his beard when we would meet with him. And every time I saw Rick Rubin, he just wanted to talk about Beatle bootlegs, which was fine. Rick Rubin's whatever.
Yeah.
He never took us seriously because he didn't believe that women should play rock music. and that's totally true.
All right. I think that's a very
And he
short,
called me. What's that? No, he
I
was
think
he was
that's a
fine.
very short anecdote, but it tells a lot. It's like tells volumes.
Rick Rubin is like, he has been making such an ass of himself lately. My God, what is it with these people I once worked with making asses of themselves? I
You
mean,
mean like how he wants to look like a 19-year-old surf boy?
well, no, it's not how I don't mind his appearance. It's just that the stupid shit that he says.
Oh yeah,
That thing with McCartney was unforgivable. My God. Sorry, never mind.
There was another very, very even weirder question from Cole and Rosé. They want me to ask you about being in the crowd.
Oh yeah,
which I had no idea about.
yeah. That's my mainstream claim to fame. I'll show you. Here's my. Where I'll get it in the frame. There's my right here is my my platinum award for the Crow soundtrack. Can you see it?
So what did you do? You produced the soundtrack?
Yeah, no. There's Medicine is in the movie.
Oh, of course.
And we're on the soundtrack, which sold 3 million copies. So there you go. No, it was huge for us, obviously. Yeah. I mean, they wanted Curve and they couldn't get them, so they got us. That's the truth. I found that out by watching the director's cut or the director's commentary. I got to find out that we were their second choice. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, we went and filmed, and it was. I met Brandon Lee, and then 2 weeks later, he got killed on the set, and that was awful. I would say that I would rather Brandon Lee still be alive than have had that movie be a massive mainstream success. And yeah, I gave that platinum award to my dad, who said I would never make money from music. I got it. His passed away, but I got it back. So that's the significance of that. It was a C, Dad.
So I see we get some really nerdy questions from people I know, but like my nerdy questions, I had like one really nerdy question.
Go for it.
That I don't think that anyone else would ask you about that.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Poor Gary Cale, man. R.I.P. He died a few years ago, and yeah, he had a rough life, that Gary.
That record is amazing for people who don't know. This is
it's rare too. That's an expensive record. Yeah, put out by Michael Shepard on Iridescence. A couple of tragic guys getting together because Gary on Iridescence, right? Gary ran the New Underground label, which put out that crazy the Life is Boring, Life is Ugly, Life is Beautiful, that series. Life is Boring has Dead of Nature on it, Duets, Carl Stone, Red Cross, The Germs. Who else would do that? It was half hardcore punk and half LAFMS related.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That was reissued. Do I have one nearby? That was reissued questionably on an Italian label recently. The Life. No. That's I don't think that'll ever be reissued.
No, I don't think.
But that's a difficult record.
So can you tell me a little bit about your involvement in this?
Well, Gary was like also a hardcore record collector. And experimental music fan. Like I remember going to his house and he had all of the Cramps label records, and you know what I mean? Like, so he just had gear in his house that he would just wire together and make hideous feedback with. But really, he was like a punk rock bass player. That's him trying to be Pierre Henry, basically. That record.
You're doing quite a good job out of it, I must say.
I mean, it's really dense stuff. So, I mean, he and I were friends, and he asked me to send him some sounds on cassette that I recorded at home because that's all I had at home.
And you were a teen, right? Back then, you were still almost a teen, right?
I was a teen. I was 16, I think. Yeah, but see, I had like cool gurus in my life that turned me on to interesting music. I think I told you before that my stepmother had a coworker, and she told him that I was a big Throbbing Gristle fan. And so he said, oh, he should hear these. And he handed her Xenakis electroacoustic music and Subotnik Silver Apples of the Moon to give to me.
Yeah.
When I was like 14, you know, scarred for life, you know?
Yeah. Incredible. It makes me think of a record I wanted to show you that I couldn't find because of the mess my collection is. And 2 weeks ago, I did an interview on a friend's channel, Michael 45. We did an interview with my brain, a brain freeze.
Oh, Toop?
With David Toop, yeah, exactly. And when I re-thought about it the other day, thinking about our upcoming discussion, I showed him a bunch of records, like one with Twisted Science, which is John Ty, who you might be familiar with. He was doing like IDM on his own label, Low Recordings in the US, in the UK. And on one of
some good compilations.
Yeah, very with Robert Wyatt sometimes. And
right.
Yeah, maybe not knowingly.
Oh, okay, I see.
John is very good at lifting stuff, with the artist, not necessarily 100% understanding what the result will be.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah, he has a whole album of a 4 LP of what is it, of Sonic Youth, which is basically guitar sounds of Sonic Youth remixed by other people, including Thurston Moore. So
right.
But so yeah, I was thinking about that record where he did some guitar on one track, and I found looking on my Discogs about like the records I have that features a certain Brad Laner. One record I couldn't find but one record by this guy.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, Mike Paradinas, I mean, he put out a full Electric Company album on Planet 2, and then he remixed an Electric Company track that's on our Greatest Hits CD. It came out on 9/11, and it's got a picture of a building blowing up on it. Good timing, right?
Oh my God. It's funny, guys, again, you remember there was like a spin-off show of the X-File called about the three guys, the three nerds, the conspirationists, and the pilot of the show was about a plane crashing into a building in New York, and it was aired in before September 11, like in September, like a week before.
It's crazy. And then there was that rap group, The Coup, who also released their album on 9/11, and it's a picture of the guy like blowing up a cartoon style bomb thing of the World Trade Center. So yeah.
So you had your moment with that as well. So you were not just
and then Miguel had to he had to reverse the covers to sell to stores because it was too disturbing to see a collapsing building on.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
but it's interesting to see that like you managed to be like a figure, like used, like featured on a track like that, and I'm sure I checked the list of your credits. It's by the hundreds.
Yeah.
So
busy.
It is a fun. I mean, I discovered you because I was young and there was medicine, and then just pulling the thread, the Brad Laner thread, is actually pretty fun and enlightening about not just you, but I guess the past 40 years of American independent music.
Yeah, I've managed to, dip in and out of that somehow, and I continue to somehow. I think it's just, being bloody-mindedly focused on doing what I want to do. And
but now what you do is that in the past few years, you've released new Medicine albums.
Correct.
Including one that was just released.
Dun, dun, dun. Ladies and gentlemen, drugs.
with your custom
yes, Futurable.
Yeah, font. Which one is it?
Futurable.
Futurable. Oh yeah.
Right.
I was looking for it while doing my thumbnail thing.
No, I mean that's just pure pleasure for us to do those. We have a huge prog rock monstrosity Medicine album in progress presently. That'll be done by the summer, and it's crazy. Right. We have stuff on there that it sounds like Medicine doing Trap Mask Replica. It's totally wrong. It shouldn't exist. Very bad.
And I must say that we talked about that in the beginning of this discussion. You put this out yourself, and you have control of everything, and it sounds amazing. It really sounds amazing. I press record for a living. I know everything about that, and I can tell you that doing that alone. Yeah.
Thank you. It was recorded in this room where I'm sitting.
Which is a testimony that, like, when you were talking about all these IDM records and recordings sounding amazing, when we have all these people who are music lovers and who swear by nothing else but all analog, and which means that they have to go back in the past to find music that would suit them.
Right.
But that music that started to be produced fully integrated,
right,
with Max MSP and stuff like that, or with analog gear like what's on your left right now.
Yes.
There's no reason for any of this to sound any less good than a great master tape of Revolver.
Oh man, that was incredibly kind of you to say. Good Lord, I just think it's something I say all the time, and I've always say this to my son, is that a bad plumber blames his tools. You can make great music with anything, I think. And also, I'm 56. I've been doing this since I was 12. If I hadn't improved by this time, I'd have no business doing it. I just think it's the advantage of getting older. Is I'm just better at it.
You're better, and you don't care about the bullshit anymore. Also,
zero. I mean, I certainly am not trying to be famous.
And I must say also, both these albums who just came out,
yeah,
they sound fantastic, great production value.
Thank you.
But you still could only do 300 of each.
That's right. Yeah, no, I don't have a huge audience. Maybe it's because I don't care. I don't know.
No, but, I mean, the thing is that as you self-distribute, there's no one doing your work for you. And as you said, as you don't care that much, but the potential is there. I'm just telling the very nice, friendly people who are joining us today. Thank you, Frank, by the way, for supporting the channel. There's a little link in the description. If you guys want, you can leave a little tip in the coffee jar.
Tips down to.
But yeah, these records these records are bound to be for people who are interested in that dimension as well, because let's be honest, that's fun as well. These are collectible records, highly collectible,
and they're but high quality. They're meant to be enjoyed. I like good sounding records. I've become more audiophile as I get older. I used to scoff at that. Now it's like bad pressings really piss me off. So, I put a lot of care into this, rejected some test pressings, etc. spent my own money, you know. I want to do more. I'd like to release some non-medicine stuff, you know, but medicine is what I'm best known for. So that's, you know.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So basically, I think that really, because this was really smart, because this had never been issued on vinyl, and now you offer it the way it was supposed to be.
Right.
And I mean, the way it was supposed to be might have been really bad, but in
yeah,
but in this case, actually,
I wouldn't have done it if it was bad. I mean,
yeah.
It was an emotional revelation to me to realize that this work that I thought was a total failure was actually successful in its original form. And it's just a measure of how kind of messed up I was at the time to not fight back. Because I am a fighter. I mean, you can imagine what the label thought when they first heard Shot Forth Self Living or The Buried Life, you know?
Yeah.
To beg me to remix stuff, and I would just refuse. Like, what are you gonna do? You know? I mean, but the fight had gone out of me by the time Her Highness was done. And
it's weird though that they would be so against it, because at the same time, that was when these producers who were championing something not exactly the same, but like Butch Vig,
right, who was a big medicine fan.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that, but it makes total sense, because when you think about Garbage, which unfortunately was way too pop, and like, I mean, it's horrible, let's be honest. But
yes, aptly named.
Yeah. But when you think about it, the people involved, the talent, if you like, of course, they had to have a singer to be successful.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's not miles away from what you were doing with Medicine.
No, I think, you know, a lot of bigger bands took what we were. I mean, Garbage is a great example of Garbage is sanitized medicine for the masses. I mean, 100%. And they knew too, believe me.
It shows there was a lot of potential for that. It's just that,
and if we had been more cohesive, we could have pulled that off. But I'm too weird for that. I mean, and we still had a degree of mainstream success because of the film, and you know, the mountain has to come to Muhammad, as they say. You know, it's like I've never done anything where I've had to like chase it.
Yeah.
And you know, I only do projects that come to me that I find interesting. I don't look for it, you know, but it consistently happens. I just got finished working on an album by a guy from the band Wolf Parade, who I loved back then, and he's doing great work now. And that, you know, he hired me for all the right reasons, so that, you know, that's the kind of thing that keeps me going, you know.
There's actually, now that I think of it, there's a Los Angeles guy that I wouldn't say he had a similar parcours as you, but there are some similarities. And I interviewed him for 3 hours, and it was the most painful interview I ever did, because it was such a struggle each time to get an answer. And it is Cliff Martinez.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was very nice, but totally incapable.
I've known Cliff forever. I mean, he.
Oh yeah.
But I knew him back in the day when he was with Captain Beefheart, you know,
which was only like for a year.
Right, but I knew him during that time, and was like asking him questions. And Captain Beefheart is right up there for me, like top 5 favorite, you know. So I was just, you know, peppering him with questions about that, and lots of really funny stories from him. He had a band called Two Balls and a Bat. They were amazing. It was him and Nicky Beat, who was the original drummer for the Germs. And I mean, incredible polyrhythmic. I don't think they ever recorded anything, but they were fantastic. But yeah, now that he's become like.
So I was not completely off thinking about him as a parallel career, like completely different than yours, obviously. But since
he's been an enormously successful soundtrack film composer.
Yeah. He was also the founding member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Not founding. He was the second drummer.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I mean, he's a lovely guy. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I would imagine
he's
he would.
totally into avant-garde experimental music.
He's not, or he is.
No, he is. He totally
Oh,
is.
okay, yeah, he was. His whole thing was using the bachette,
Yeah.
the glass instrument.
Les structures sonores Lasserie Bachet.
Thank you. Sorry, bachet.
I visited their workshop when they were both still alive, the brothers, and in the south of Paris. Incredible.
Amazing. Yeah, I buy every recording of that stuff that I can, even though I can't pronounce it clearly. Well, I'm sorry that he was a difficult interview.
It was just that he was.
Yeah,
I guess he's all about his music, and talking publicly about his music was like very painful for him, I guess.
Oh, strange. I mean, film music is a weird thing for me.
Yeah.
I generally don't like film music, actually, because I'm a purist and I don't like the idea of music serving or a music having to do a job other than just being music. So the fact that this whole genre of music that is designed to support visuals, yeah. And it all sounds the same to me.
Yeah, I can see how you, yeah.
It's like, it's very, it's demeaning to the spirit of music, I think, to have it.
Yeah.
I'd rather hear, what was that, the Scandinavian film movement? What were they called?
The from the, I know the, when you were supposed,
I can't remember what they're called.
The Danish guy, what's his name?
Yeah, the Von Trier.
Von Trier, yeah.
But
yeah, I can't remember, but I know exactly what you like. All these 10 commandments.
Right. One of those commandments was only in-camera sound.
Okay.
No score.
Yeah.
It's only the sounds. I mean, I dig that.
Yeah. Because I mean, you still love movies, I suppose. Like,
Dogma. Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. Dogma. Exactly.
Okay.
The Dogma.
Dogma 95. Thank you, guys. Oh, and Capture Tracks, the person asking about Capture, they just wrote to me and asked if they could do it. I mean, and I hadn't heard of them at the time.
Yeah, they had the shop in New York now that is very successful, but the label.
Right. Mike Sniper wrote to me in like 2011 and asked if I wanted to do it, and I said yes.
There was another very complicated question here.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yes. It was cleaning up unused ideas. Very, very astute observation. I almost sent you that one. I think you would like Micro Awakenings, Stunty. Micro Awakenings is like 5 years of random ideas. It put together in a patchwork style in 4 suites. I'm really proud of that one, actually. So there
you release in the
into that one.
Yeah. But I guess I mean, we could talk for hours, and then we could nerd about, like, you and I, when we talked privately, we were talking about like Bernard Parmigiani and all these amazing records. Maybe if I do a stream which is dedicated to all that, maybe I'll ask you if you want to join and so we can share all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'd love to. We could easily talk about nothing but musical crap.
Yeah, that would be lovely. And I guess that people were nice enough to stay for all that time.
Yeah, thanks.
I hope that more people will watch it later on. Usually I do these videos live, but like this one will be a little bit different because I didn't play any music. We just talk.
Yeah, you're not going to get copyright.
No. Unless maybe for that John Lennon picture in the background.
Oh, yes. Can you tell them?
Yeah, so in the description of the video I put the link for this, which it's like there's not that many left. There's still a handful, but
and drugs. Get your drugs, kids.
exactly.
I
And
think there's fewer of drugs left than yeah.
yeah, and I also put just the link for your whole discography on
Oh,
Discogs, because I think it's just fun just to look at it and to see how many connections you will make. I doubt that anyone that I would say that the most conservative classic rock lover guy, if he likes some stuff from the 80s or the 90s, is bound to have something that is connected to you in a way or another.
yeah, strangely enough, that's probably true.
And
um, you
yeah,
know, and
mm,
that extends to like people like Fleetwood Mac, and there's connections there too. Strangely enough,
yeah,
but
and yes,
and yes,
I
yes,
mean that
yeah.
was quite unexpected, I would say.
Well,
But maybe,
it's like you grew up loving
yeah,
prog stuff and RIO. I mean, you don't get into Rock and Opposition without passing through Yes, and then to Henry Cow, and then
yeah.
I stand by 70s Yes in a big way. I think those are great records.
You have to mentor me then.
Get get Relayer. Start with Relayer.
Relayer, okay.
Yeah, that's a crazy record.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I
Yeah,
don't know if you want also, if you have also a YouTube channel where you put out some medicine uh,
right.
audio and visual memorabilia in a way,
Yes.
which is quite fun. So I would encourage people to go watch that.
Yeah.
Um,
Nave Spiel is my YouTube name.
I'll put it in the description later.
All right.
And yes, if you have more questions, you can leave them in the comment sections, and I'll be sure to pass them on to Brad if he doesn't answer them himself, which he might. Who knows?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Maybe.
And where will we hear you next?
The next medicine monstrosity that we're
The
building for,
prog monstrosity.
and then there's a new album that just came out by Paul B. Cutler that I co-produced from 45 Grave and Vox Pop. It's like the first thing he's done since the 80s, and it's
Wow.
that's coming out on In the Red next month. And then this record by Dan Beckner, currently in Arcade Fire, used to be in Wolf Parade. His first solo album, which I played all over, that's coming out probably in a few months. So, stuff.
But still not yet your first reggaeton project. That's not okay.
I actually I actually did some guitar playing for Jay Cortez, who is my wife's client. If you know who Jay Cortez is, then you're probably under 20.
And if you know who he is, you're probably one of billions.
Oh yeah, he's massively popular.
Yeah.
And collaborates with Bad Bunny, who is the Beatles.
I love it to end this on a question mark, sort of like
Yes,
a little.
what are you talking about?
Well, guys, it was lovely. If you can, only if you can, support the channel by hitting the coffee jar in the description. But
Tip stunty.
at the same time, for me, I do that because like talking with I was doing that for a living at one point, but I still do it because it's a way to keep learning. I'm not a fanboy, even if I was very, very, very happy for you to agree to do that in such a casual and easy way. But I really think that you are an important figure at a crossroad of different areas of American music, and that time will give you credit if it hasn't already.
No worries. I mean, I'm happy with the amount of recognition I've received, honestly. But yeah, dying is good for business. So someday.
That should be the name of an album. Dying is good for business. That's
probably is. But yeah, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever will be, will be. C'est la vie.
Merci, Brad. See you whenever we find a good reason for, and there will be.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Stunty.
Bye, guys.